Previously on the weekly drive-by.
So we got 14 songs, 39 minutes. I think that this is going to be... I think that I'm going to give this... I'm going to say it's going to be a 3.5.
Could be a 4. If it just turns out that the rest of the album is just like, oh, they were just saving all the good shit.
I think that there's going to be at least 4 songs on here, and that's such a low bar for this band. Maybe like 5 or 6 that I just really, really like. You gotta pick one song. What's gonna be the biggest? What's gonna be the fucking song of the autumn? Because it can't be song of the summer. Summer's over.
Song of the autumn is gonna be Velveteen, dude. For some reason, I'm feeling strong about that title.
I'm gonna pick Pomeranian Spinster. I don't know what I've said about it before. I might have said something about it before. Whatever, I take it back. This one's gonna be the fucking song of the autumn. And I know it's 3. It's like nearly their longest song. But it's gonna sound really good. It's gonna have a bridge on it. People are gonna be like, wow, it's so fucking good. After the Earthquake is slated to be an absolute jam.
Pressed is gonna be really good. 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That's their lane. They got that.
I'm thinking that Molly is ready to friggin' ruin your life when you hear very online guy.
Many Mirrors is gonna be just like a bad, slow, sad song.
Yeah. Tile by Tile is gonna be a sad song. I already know that. I'm not gonna pick that.
Yeah, this is the last time we talk about it until it comes out.
That's a good idea. We can't talk about it until it comes out after this.
I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous that it's just going to be a 3. I'm very nervous that it's going to get in that forgotten pile of 3s where it's like, oh yeah, this was kind of decent, huh? All right, well, whatever.
Perfect. It sounds like a perfect audiobook narrator. Last chapter. Well, this is the edition, the one edition of the weekly drive-by. It's out. It's up. It's out. I torrented it like 2 days before. I thought it released next week. I'll be honest. I thought it released this upcoming Friday. So then I torrented. I downloaded this giant FLAC folder of the album. And it come out like 2 days later. I'm like, oh, nice. I downloaded it from Root Tracker, and it's really big. It took like 45 minutes to download because of the cap speeds on the download. Unless you buy premium, which I am not fucking buying premium.
I never put in the effort to like actually work through Root Tracker because isn't everything's in Russian there?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all in Russian.
Yeah, I'm so far out of this game that I don't know any of the top tier stuff for that anymore.
Root Tracker's an old one, but I am gonna go get my can of 23-ounce Monster Raspberry Dragon Tea out of the fridge.
8 o'clock, or it's 7 o'clock.
Fuck off, I need the energy right now. I'm just probably gonna have like half of it or something and chug the other half when I wake up in the morning. But you guys entertain the crowd.
Yo, Sam, how's it going, man?
It's good. On the contrary, I just had a kombucha, which also has caffeine, but not as much. So that's the lifestyle difference, I guess. I don't know.
I was telling Marcus, since I've been at Virginia Tech, there's a single-digit number of days of which I've either picked up a office chair or a stool, kind of to the level of where my chest is, and just thrown it as hard as I possibly could. And today was one of those days.
Really?
Yes.
Jeez.
I kind of think that grad school, in a way, keeps you like as a child because you don't get paid any money, and you have to like do really menial things for like all of your research projects. Like we have it tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Like there's a deadline for a proposal for a research thing, and just because of the nature of how my advisor is, everything is incredibly last minute. And I had to do a buttload of testing today at my lab.
Yeah.
And it's really, like, the testing itself is really stupid. And I don't like it. And the stuff that we work with is fiber optic, like not even cables, fiber optic, like just fiber, and it's incredibly fragile. So you constantly feel like you're doing the spy, walking through a laser thing, like room full of lasers, because you don't want to break anything. Because if you break something, it's like a 4 or 5 hour setback to fix it, and then you just get really upset, and you're like, this shit sucks. So after like a few hours of testing of doing really hard, stupid things, I'm just like, yep, today's the day. Picking up a chair and I'm just throwing it down the hall.
You know what's crazy to me too is like we are relatively far removed from our undergrad, and you're still like this entire time you've still been in school, and that like academic period of my life seems so far removed from me in my mind that you still doing all that is insane to me.
It sucks. I can completely see that point of view, because I feel like I have been here for like 10 years. I feel like I have been here for 10 years. I've told my parents that I feel in a very similar way that what I'm doing is akin to prison, because I'm so far away from family, and I see them every now and then, but it's always temporary, and I don't get paid any money, and I get publications and stuff, but like I'm just very sick of it and want to leave.
Do you? Because I know some schools like grad students get benefits and some kind of other compensation. Do you have anything like that, or is it just totally?
Well, yeah, I
remote?
get paid. I get paid about 26,000 a year.
That's insane.
Yeah, the benefit is that you like also from that 26,000 is that every month or every 2 weeks. I don't know. You get a big number of that taken. Like it's actually only like 22K, because you have to pay for like the buses that are around town. You have to pay for the like student service, like access to the gym that I don't use. Because I use a different gym because it's not on campus. I'm 10-15 minutes away from campus.
Sure.
So like, also like all the other student services that you just don't ever use, like, if they have an office for like a, you need to talk, like you have to pay for that. Like you have to pay for all that stuff because you're still a student. But it's like you're a student in all the bad ways, but you're like an employee in all the like bad ways too.
Yeah.
You get
Like,
the worst of
there's
both
no
worlds.
benefit to this. It's really stupid. And then you just get paid a little bit more out of college. Yeah, and you say goodbye to all your early 20s. It's a fucking awesome thing. I can't recommend it enough to anyone that wants to do it. I feel like, there's a childlike aspect to it that you're kind of like I don't know, it's like kind of like your advisors, your parents, and you're just doing a bunch of bullshit for them. Like you're basically doing chores, and like I just get fed up after a while, so I just revert to the childlike shit. I'm just gonna throw something. I'm so upset, sort of thing, where it's like I just can't. I'm sick of all these dumb chores, and I'm sick of them being incredibly last minute. So I'm just gonna throw something. Like that's just kind of where I'm at.
All right, understandable. But now that we're all here, we're talking about an album today. And we're talking about an album by a band. And this band is not American. They're very un-American, actually. They hail from America Junior, which is
the
Canada.
51st state.
Yeah. They released their debut album back in 2014. It was self-titled, and it got a good response. It wasn't like a super big deal, but a lot of people liked it. And then they came out with their second album 3 years later in 2017, and it's called Anti-Socialites. And
it blew up!
It got a lot more press, definitely. And then they said, all right, guys, that was it.
See ya!
We're out. We're done.
Fucking
And
see you
no
later.
one heard a fucking word for about 5 years, until the new album, Blue Rev, came out October 7th, so about a week ago, week and a half. And this band is called Alvvays, and I'm going to open it up with Steven. What'd you think about it?
I will say that they had a lot of good songs. I will say that I actually want to go. I want to start from the very beginning. They released singles multiple times. We have talked about every single single, which was Pharmacist. We said it was a banger, absolutely great. Easy on Your Own, not looking so hot. Kind of a mix there. Like not super great. Fans gobbled it up, and then they released 2 singles: Very Online Guy and Belinda Says, which is not Belinda Butcher. It is Belinda from the Goes, and I actually want to share.
That was my first guess. Was Belinda Butcher actually?
Same.
I wanted to send this article. If you could, Marcus, could you send that to Sam? Because I'm on my desktop. I don't have I'm not on my phone. So I read an article, and I made sure not to bring it up last week because Molly Rankin went in, and in this article, there are multiple things that I want to go over, and I want to make very, very clear is that Molly Rankin in this article, which was first posted to Stereo Gum, was a lot of influences on this album. A lot of things, and basically a lot of stuff from like the last 4 years of when they were 4 or 5 years when they were like not on the grid. And there's a lot of stuff in here. There's 2 things that I specifically want to go over. Fuck, I pressed bookmarks instead of. About halfway through, there is a quote under the section Jangly Guitar Bands, and the second sentence or first sentence, Molly Rankin says, Carrie, who's a member of the band, listens to a lot of guitar-heavy music, and so do I. She was the one who played Sonic Youth's Goo for me when I was 19 or 18 or something. The first album that she brings up is Sonic Youth's Goo. Marcus, are you sure that you can't fall in love with this girl any more than you already have? Where is the cap? Where is the ceiling in the affection?
They've mentioned Sonic Youth before. I think in something on Antisocialites where like they were talking about somebody complaining about how like, oh, the noise stuff isn't that intense, and they're like, well, we're not Sonic Youth, so I don't know what you're expecting. But I think it's fitting that Carrie is the one who introduced it, because Carrie seems like the cool one in the band. She seems like a low-key real cool one.
Yeah, I bet Carrie would be really cool to hang out with, and not like to say that she'd be cooler than Molly to hang out with, but like Carrie seems like a real character in a great way.
Yeah.
So the second, perhaps even more, like, wow, she dropped it. Under the section Freaks and Geeks, in the second paragraph, she talks about shows that she had watched. She says, another show that I was watching during the pandemic was called The Thick of It. I think it's what Veep was based on. It was on BBC. I know that some of the writers, maybe the main writer, Jesse Armstrong, went on to create Succession.
Oh boy.
Dropping Succession.
That's hilarious.
I watched it. I seriously read this article last week, and I didn't notice that until probably a few hours ago, because I like actually deeply read through it, and I'm like, what is this? Who is this girl? Who is she? Dropping Sonic Youth and Succession. It's like she's like the cooler, went on to start a band. Otherwise, we'd just be making memes with her in a group chat about Succession and Sonic Youth. Like, that's what happened. It's like we're in a universe like very tangential to the ones who were like best friends with Molly Rankin.
That's a fucking depressing statement.
Like,
we're in the universe right next to it.
We're like two houses down from that one. You know, we're pretty close. It's like, oh, but she's Canadian and she grew up in Canada and she didn't go to college in Wisconsin. So yeah, we're like pretty close.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
But this article is pretty cool too. I mean, she goes into the Belinda Carlisle things. She goes into Haruki after the earthquake. What that was kind of based on, or like kind of tangential to. It was a short story that she read, I think, during the pandemic too, and talks about Very Online Guys. She talks about gardening, planting tomatoes, and how she's talking about how she's becoming an old woman. And yeah, I gotta say, I gotta think a few things like along with this, like the last like whatever these paragraphs are, like she's saying that she's becoming an old woman, and the last song on Fourth Figure. I'm hoping this is not the end because Fourth Figure seems like a song that you put on the album to make it seem like it's the end, and I hope it's not. But that's what I wanted to talk about. All the lead up. I will also say that we never talked about the single because it was after our moratorium where we said, okay, we can't talk about Alvvays until the album releases.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so after the earthquake, it dropped. What were your thoughts, Sam? What were your thoughts on After the Earthquake?
I think that's actually one of my favorite songs on the album. To be honest, I was a little nervous with this album just because, like you said, the first two singles are pretty good. I actually liked Easy on Your Own quite a bit, and I'm not sure if it's because it grew on me after Very Online Guy came out, because Very Online Guy is just, I just don't like it at all. It's not very good, and I was very, very disappointed, a little worried that the album wouldn't be as enjoyable as their previous one. It's hard to say still because I've only listened to it once at this point, but um, I I enjoyed a lot so far. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays in person too when we go on Friday. I'm curious to see what you think about that as well. If it'll play similarly in person.
I think it'll be I think they're pretty good at giving good live performances. I think they're definitely going to play a lot of the, they're going to play all their old stuff because, like, how long. I mean, it's going to be about an hour-ish. I think that was how it was when we saw them in Milwaukee. It's about an hour-ish, maybe an hour and a half max concert. And, like, at some point, you're just going to have to play, like, most or all your songs because, like, that's, what they got. Marcus, what do you think about? What do you think about After the Earthquake?
So I got a couple things to say about it. I guess it would help to tie it back to talking about some of the earlier singles like you guys were talking about. And like you're saying, Pharmacist, we were all on board with that one. Easy on Your Own, it came out and I was very unimpressed. I said some maybe more critical things than were necessarily accurate about it. But that between that and Belinda Says, I was kind of like Sam. I was a little nervous about what the overall ending product was going to be. And Steven, you actually said when we were talking about, trying to guess what the songs would be like just based on the names and stuff, you said After the Earthquake was slated to be an absolute jam. And I think you were right. I actually think that's a really great song. And you know why it's a great song?
Why?
Because they brought the jangle back. There was no jangle in Easy on Your Own. There was no jangle in Belinda Says. There's no jangle in Very Online Guy. There's not really a jangle in Pharmacist either, but we're not counting that one because that's just a good song. But After the Earthquake, they really leaned heavy into it. And of course, it ends up being a great song. That being said, there's one line in that song in the little slow, sad bridge part where she says, "But things fade like the scent of a brand new car." And that is easily the worst line she's ever written. Pulls me out of the song every time.
There were some really weird lyrics that were on this album, and that was one of them.
One lyric I got to point out is Easy on Your Own in their pre-chorus. They say, and that's one of those, like, it's like one of the, obviously, like, it's leading into the rest of the sentence, but it's one of those things where, like, they say the title of the movie in the movie, and when I heard that, I immediately thought of that kind of feeling.
I felt the same about that one. He says, "'Cause we're always," like, ah, damn it, really?
Stop. I keep
Bravo, Molly.
Yeah. Oh my god, that was because I was listening to that earlier today too, and I'm like thinking that they keep leaning into that vocal inflection on the first syllable always, and they do it like what 3-4 times in that little sub lines, and I was like, bro, stop, this not good.
Yeah, a lot of the lyrics were questionable. I think too, like obviously we all seem to have a pretty similar feeling about Very Online Guy. Um, I don't know. I don't think the lyrics are as good as in this album as they were in Antisocial Life, but that's just it's hard to compare to. I think it's not, especially with all the setbacks they had for what it's been over 5 years now. It's it's hard to kind of come up after a very successful sophomore album and then surpass that in the way that they were expected to, especially with all the anticipation. It's hard to do.
Yeah, it's something we brought up a couple of times where it's like they kind of have to miss eventually, or at least, deliver something that's slightly disappointing because I guess with the first album, it's kind of like nobody's really expecting anything anyway. So when it comes out and it's actually really great, it's like, oh, cool. Maybe the next one will be good. And when the next one comes out and it's actually arguably as good or even better, it's like, oh, damn. All right. Can they do it again? And so your expectations are already at such a high place that it's like, can anything really live up to the expectations at that point?
I'm gonna take a bit of a swerve here. I had said about 2 weeks ago when Very Online Guys released, because it released with Belinda Says. I said that because they released, 2 songs. I said that they had released one good song, and that Very Online Guys was half a good song, and Belinda Says was another half of a good song, and that together it's one. But if they just like swapped the tempo and swapped some of the style on the song, then you'd have one great song and one probably not very good song. Very Online Guys has actually grown on me. I thought it was a really good song to place after Many Mirrors because it really juxtaposes the not really loud or noisy, but super like distorted guitars with the vocal style that's just really, really fuzzy, and it swaps and it goes instantly to a far more defined sound on Very Online Guy. It's the techno, it's the a little electronic bouncing around stuff, and the vocal style is. I actually wanted to make a really big reach and say that the vocal style on Very Online Guys is somewhat reminiscent to a noir sounding like just style in general. It's got like a kind of a goofy spy movie like sound to the vocal style. And I really liked that it was placed right after Many Mirrors because it's just a completely different sound. And it kind of it got me actually a lot interested into the song, and I think it grew on me. I could see why I totally agree with how you can feel that way, Sam. Because when it first released, I'm like, yeah, I could do without it. But in the style of the album, I think it really works. And I do think it's a good song. I mean, I thought it was like decent, half a good song before, but I mean, I really like it now. I think it works really well.
Well, and to kind of go off of that too, with my my exposure to that song, other than just my only listen through that I've had time for at this point, I listen to KXP, which is like local public radio back in Seattle, and I have since I was a teenager, and they have a lot of good stuff. It's sometimes a little too obnoxious with how repetitive they are with a few things, but they're usually pretty well versed because they have a lot of variety in their different shows throughout the week. And my only exposure was just hearing them play all the singles every however many weeks a new one came out. And so you'd listen to whatever in the radio stream, and then you get to that song when they ended up putting it on, and it felt just very out of place listening to it on its own. It did sound a little bit better in the album, but I feel like I'd have to listen to it more to kind of get that feeling that you're talking about.
I think you're right, Sam. I feel like it is kind of out of place in the album. I like when it comes on, like Steven, you were saying, when it comes on after Many Mirrors, it's like a good change of pace. And I really like, just it starts out with the drums kicking in after Many Mirrors, which is it's an okay song, honestly. But it does sound like a good change of pace. That being said, though, on a broader note, while we're talking about a Very Online Guy, I think, Sam, maybe one of the reasons you're not too into it is because you're not a Very Online Guy, so you can't relate to it on the level that I can.
I am not very
kidding.
online anymore. It's my lifestyle's changed, unfortunately.
That's a good
That's
thing.
a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
But the point I was going to make is that I think this is their most inconsistent sounding album yet. The first one, I mean, both the first two, they kind of, at least in terms of like the mixing and the mastering and the instruments being used, there's not really any surprises being thrown at you. Maybe on the first one when they get to Red Planet, it's kind of like, that's a little different. But other than that, like they're kind of working with the same palette all the way through. Versus with this one, it seems like they're switching around a lot more often. And especially with Very Online Guy coming like right in the middle, it's a weird spot to kind of make that singular change, I think.
I'm surprised that you think that. I mean, it's definitely different than their previous album, you know, where Red Planet, what that was at the very end. That was the last song, right?
Yeah.
So this one's kind of just right in the middle. I don't know. I don't think Very Online Guy would be suited for near the end of this album. I don't know if there is a real place to put it, but I mean, right in the middle ain't a bad spot.
But it kind of like, it makes you think they're turning some kind of corner on the album, but then it's like, no, it's just this kind of strange outlier in the middle. And I don't think it's a bad song. I don't think it's a really like great song either. I'll listen to it if the album's playing through, but I'll probably never listen to that just like, oh damn, I really want to hear a Very Online Guy right now. Like that's never gonna happen.
Yeah, no, I could see that. Well, is Tom Verlaine a song that you would do that?
I think so. I was expecting to dislike that song just on the name, which is not because I dislike Tom Verlaine in any way. I'm not too into television, honestly, and I you know, now that I think about it, I kind of do dislike Tom Verlaine as a vocalist. But I think that's at least where they lean the hardest into kind of a good shoegaze sound versus, you know, where I think Easy on Your Own and Belinda Says are kind of them leaning into a shoegaze sound that doesn't really work. I think with Tom Verlaine, the vocals are more understated and a little more lo-fi. It's more just about the textures of the things that are happening versus, you know, like with Easy on Your Own and Belinda Says, those are big ballads where you're supposed to care about the vocals, where it's like, well, actually, I kind of just don't. But I like Tom Verlaine. Yeah, that's a good track.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna disagree there.
All right.
No. That song that comes up after the earthquake, dropping a slow shoegazy song, right after you developed all that energy.
Yeah, it should be
my
in the
girl.
back,
what are you doing?
Like third of the album, if anything.
Yeah,
I agree with
girl,
that.
what are you doing? I would have slapped.
So that's.
Go on.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would have taken after the earthquake. Leave it right there. You know, maybe you put it second, but I don't. Let's just say Easy on Your Own just stays there. After the earthquake, bam, right there. Then take Pomeranian Spinster, bam, fourth song, right there. Then take Lottery Noises, fifth, bam, right there.
What?
Then, so that was a test. I would not take Lottery Noises. I wanted to make sure that you remember exactly what it was like, and I would not put it right there. But yeah, okay. It's Pomeranian Spinster, bam. Then Pressed, and then Many Mirrors, Very Online Guy, and then, you know, take Tom Verlaine and just chuck it down there, just somewhere. I would probably even put it after Bored in Bristol.
Well, no, it sounds like we're saying kind of the same thing. Like, I don't think this sounds like a disagreement, because what I was saying about Very Online Guy was like, I'll listen to it in the context of the album, but on my own, I'm not going to pick it out because like it's there in the album, I guess. So it's fine. But with Tom Verlaine, I was saying like, I guess I'm not super concerned about where it is in the album. Like, I'll still go listen to that on its own. I get what you're saying, I guess. Maybe that's a bad spot for it. And while you're talking about revising the track list, one of the things that I actually did, because Sam, you said you've only listened to it once. I've probably given it about 7 or 8 listens by this point. Dude, I've been waiting for this for 5 years.
I know. This is big for you guys. I mean, to be fair, I didn't even start listening to Alvvays until after you guys went to that show and were raving about it in 2017. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'll start listening to their stuff, and that's how I got into it. So I haven't even seen them in person before. I think this will be like kind of if the infancy of my interest in this band is still developing, and you guys have already spent so much time listening to them or even seeing them too. Was that your first time seeing them live as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I've listened to it probably somewhere around 10 times now, and I actually did a couple of times where I just like deleted Easy on Your Own and Belinda Says off the track list, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually a lot better now. Which, you know, while I'm saying that, look, this is about a 39-minute long album. Okay, their past two were both about 32 minutes. You cut off Easy on Your Own, that's 3 minutes gone. So now we're at 36. You cut off Belinda Says, that's another 3 minutes gone. So now we're back at 33. What a shocker.
I've done that before too. I've done that. Man, if you just deleted this 1 or 2 track, this shit would be easily a lot better. Like, I've done that a few times. I would. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I at least agree with one of those. I just can't pick out which one. I'm not. I don't know. I wouldn't say I would delete Tom Verlaine, but it's in the discussion. It's close for me.
All right,
that's fine. What about what do you think about Pressed?
Pressed. So I was expecting it to be better. It's not as good as I thought it was going to be, just because, like, you know, it's the shortest outside of Fourth Figure, which is just kind of like an outro anyway. Well, and I guess outside of Pharmacist, which is interesting. But Pressed, I mean, I thought it was going to be kind of like their Hey on this album, but it's just pretty good. I mean, I'm not mad at it, but it's just good, not great.
I can't believe you think that. What is wrong with you? That is a decent song, and it's just okay to you. I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it was as good as Hey, but that's a lethargic, take it or leave it, a big old exhale, a big old sigh of mediocre. Oh,
no, it's not mediocre. It's good.
You're whelmed.
Actually, though, I want to talk about what you picked as what was going to be the best song here, which is you picked Pomeranian Spinster. Do you feel like you were correct?
I was pretty close if I wasn't correct. I think I would say After the Earthquake, but I mean Pomeranian Spinster. That's like, you know, that's on the podium. Has to be on the podium.
Sam, how do you feel about that song?
I like that song, but you got to remember too that I'm such a normie that After the Earthquake is definitely my favorite song on the album. I didn't really, on my listen through, I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, kind of like what you said earlier, I feel like it's in a good spot in the album. If not, it should be moved up one over Verlaine. I personally don't like that song, Tom Verlaine, but I also have like personal gripes with television. I have a cousin who played Marquee Moon, I think like 4 times on a road trip across Washington State one time.
What?
And I heard that album, oh my God, so many times that I can like never enjoyably listen to that band again. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, like it rubs you the wrong way. It's like when you drink a certain kind of alcohol and get really sick and then you never want to even look at it again. It kind of just gave me that feeling. Song was fine, but I just wasn't a huge fan.
All right, Marcus, if you're about to disagree hard, you're about to either disagree hard or say that I was like literally dead on and I nailed it. Which one?
I'm picking option number 2 here. You were dead on. You nailed it. This is far and away the best song on the album to me. I think that is like exactly when these guys are at their best, is when they're light on their feet. They got the jangle going on. They'll throw the noise on top of it. Molly's being Molly. Like there's parts when they get up to like, I think it's like the second verse where she's like basically rapping at that point. We're like, what is going on here? But I love it. You know?
This song's gonna sound really good in like live. Like that
Oh, that's
song
gonna
will
be the
be a
hype song.
fucking jam. Yeah.
So I want to ask a question then about that. So what are your guys' experiences with them live, and what are you kind of expecting seeing this live into the week, this album?
I don't know that there's anything like that's super different about a live versus recorded, but I mean, live is just Molly just shreds in person. She just kind of goes insane here now and then. But I don't know. I don't think that they like. I just think that they're a great sounding live band and that they put on a damn good show. It's not even like a whole lot different. It's just the energy's pretty good. That's what I would say.
Yeah, one thing I was nervous about going into the last show was just wondering if the vocals were going to sound as good live, because sometimes, you know, you listen to these bands and everything's sounding good when they're studio, but when they're actually out on stage, where it's like basically exercise at that point, like they have to work hard to, you know, perform, to like do a show, and the vocals a lot of the times can end up suffering on that. But no, they carry it pretty well, actually. I remember in Undertow specifically, I was kind of worried about how the vocals at the end were going to sound and whether or not she'd be able to hit that high note, but she did, and it was pretty impressive.
There's a fair amount of high notes on this that I'm gonna see if she can hit it.
Oh,
But
one of them was bad. I can't
Well-
remember which one.
it was late in the album, wasn't it? Was it
I
Tile by
don't know.
Tile?
I don't know exactly. It might have
Yeah.
even been Velveteen. I can't remember exactly, but
Tile
like,
by Tile has a couple of the high ones I can hear. You know, I'm
that, like-
still waiting.
there's something where like at the very end of the song, she probably reaches up higher than she ever has before, and I did not think it worked like at all. I was like, oh, this is gross. Ruin the song. Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't do it on board in Bristol. I recall hearing it though, because I was like shocked. I'm like, whoa, she's really going. That's
Yeah.
to record that is tough. What do you think, Sam? What are some of your thoughts on, I don't know, the later part, mid part, high notes, vocal performance? I know you said
Well-
you only listened to it once, but
So I don't think there was anything that stood out to me as bad. I noticed, I mean, obviously, listening to their past albums, I've always felt like on those high notes, they kind of add a little more reverb, it seems like, to kind of just draw it out a little bit more. So that was kind of why I was asking about what their live in-person show would sound like, because you can still mimic that a little bit, but it's different, right? Like obviously it's different in
Mhm.
person, and I don't know. I'm not sure if there's anything specific that stood out to me. Um, I haven't been to a lot of live shows, I guess, to preface it with that too, either until recently. I mean, with COVID, I hadn't been to any live shows for a while, and then the beginning of this year, February, is when I finally started like going back to shows. So I've only been to I think 5 or 6 different shows in the last like 2+ years. It's been a while.
do you? I know that sometimes you move around for your job, but do you like as a quote as much as you can? Like, do you permanently live around the same part in Illinois that your girlfriend does?
So we're both in Milwaukee, so I'm still
Oh, okay. So yeah, Wheaton's just the home for her.
yeah. So I specifically stay. I've gone to shows at all the 3 typical Pabst, Riverside,
Yeah.
and Turner Hall. I
Okay, wait,
actually
so like, what's your address?
1234 Milwaukee,
Milwaukee.
Wisconsin is where I live.
Milwaukee Street.
Which is funny.
Isn't
'cause
that
there is
actually a
Milwaukee
street there?
Yeah.
So stupid. And there's Wisconsin Avenue too. So fucking
Yeah.
dumb.
No, it's the
Hilarious.
street, it's the city, it's the wait, no, it's not the county, is it? It's not Milwaukee County, right?
Yes, it is. No, so but I mean, very recently, what did I go see? I went with Elise to see Florence and the Machines in Chicago because she loves, or Florence and the Machine. I always say that she loves Florence, and so we saw that, and then we actually saw Lady Gaga at Wrigley Field in
Oh
August
wow.
because we got free tickets. So we
Oh, that's
just
pretty
went.
cool.
And so I'm like, yeah, free tickets, might as well. It was fun.
Was it at Soldier? Was it at Soldier Field?
No, Wrigley. It was at Wrigley.
Oh, Wrigley. Yeah, no.
And I will say, like, obviously, like, I've never been a huge Gaga fan, but her music's fine. I have no major gripes with it. It's good pop music. But her performance was unbelievable. I mean, she knows how to put on a show. I was very impressed. And then I also recently went and saw a Seattle, or not a Seattle local, but a Seattle label favorite, Father John Misty in Milwaukee, because it was like $15, and I'm like, oh, might as well.
Oh my god! Is he
John
okay?
Misty's doing $15 now.
15.
State.
Yeah.
1.5.
1.5. No, not 50. No, 1.5. Jeez, no.
Fucking 1.5.
What the
I
fuck
know.
happened to him, man?
Dropped off.
His new album is very weird. It's like a jazz fusion kind of thing, and he wrote it during COVID. It's super weird, but it was like, as you know, there's not much to do in Milwaukee, so I was like, yeah, sure, I might as well go see him. It'll be interesting. It was fine. I wouldn't have paid more than $15, I don't think, but it was fine. He did all the hits, so it was interesting.
Fucking laughing at him.
I know. Isn't that hilarious?
That's like sad, man.
I know.
Like, he was like a big name, at least around like the beginning of last decade, I feel like.
Oh yeah, he was huge. I mean, he was big like towards the end of when we were in college too, because his big albums came out then, at that time frame. And his new one, like I said, is very weird, but like 2012, 2016, or when Fear Fun came out, and then he had what was the other album? I can't even find it
Is
right
it the
now.
Honey Bear one?
Yeah, God's Favorite. I don't know.
No, this one
not
that's
on
I
there.
Love You, Honey Bear.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's 2015. Yeah, Pure Comedy 2017. So like that run from 2015
Yeah.
to 2018 was pretty good, but then I don't think he's really done anything great since then.
I used to be big in the indie scene, you know.
And it was funny because I used to shit on him big time. I thought his music was obnoxious for a while, and like I said, it's fine. I mean, I don't go out of my way to listen to it very often. But the other reason that I have to admit that I went to the show is because his opener was Suki Waterhouse. If you know who that is.
No idea.
Probably more entertaining than Father John Misty.
She's like I think she's a British model, and her music is like her stuff is very new. It's not anything special, but she's dating Robert Pattinson, and
Oh my god.
and so I was like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. So I went there for all of that.
That's a night.
the music scene is very depressing in Milwaukee, if you can't tell. It's just there's not much going on.
Fucking try Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, yeah,
dude.
that's a very good point.
The worst. I mean, it's probably kind of similar in Milwaukee, but the worst here is when you'll see somebody's like performing in Atlanta and then they're performing in Nashville, but they just skip us over.
Mhm.
It's like,
And
bro,
Charlotte's
we're
there.
on the way. We're on the way. It's probably similar with Milwaukee, at least with Chicago. Like you probably look and see like, oh, well, like I want to go see these guys, but they're going to Chicago, so I had to like drive, like an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever, both ways.
A lot of smaller artists that I like go to Madison too. Like I saw the Marias in February, and I've been listening to them. So I went and saw the Marias in Triathlon. They had like a double header show. It was like $10, and I went and saw them in, I'm forgetting what part. It's like close to Queen Anne, back in Seattle, and have loved their stuff ever since. A super cheap show, but I listened to their stuff since their initial couple albums came out in like the mid-late 2010s. And the Marias have kind of been getting bigger lately. I think the whole band just opened for Halsey, I think, on her recent tour. They were the opener, so they've grown a little bit, but I recommend listening to that. It's kind of like a soft kind of pop sound, so it's very relaxing. Elise definitely loves it, so we love going to that for that reason.
That kind of in the same vein, I was thinking about it earlier today, but there needs to be an identifier or some sort of label that you can slap on to the like very, very popular yet, and I'm doing the biggest air quotes of all time, indie like bands or indie, whatever strata, because like the ones that are super duper popular, like Father John Misty, I'm not sure what definition or what classification. I don't know how anyone calls him indie. Like, that is not indie. He's not independent. He's got a massive record label deal, or had at one point. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
he's
What do
still
you-
on Sub Pop, which is, I mean,
Yeah.
Sub Pop arguably was indie for a while in the 80s and, or sorry, 90s and early 2000s, but Sub Pop's pretty large. They have Beach House. They I can't think of any other big names on that label right now, but they've grown into like this massive West Coast label at this point. They're not very much indie anymore.
Right, but I guess it just depends on like what's the definition of indie. Like, are they still independent? Like, what does independent even mean in terms of a label?
Sufficiently small. That's what I would say. Then ask me to define sufficiently, and I'll say no. No, I'm not gonna do it. I don't have numbers in front of me, but Sub Pop's too big. Like Beach House, if you're getting massive massive hype and stuff before your like 8th album or something, like, no, get the fuck out. You are not indie. You're just an alternative rock. That's what it is.
Well,
Or an
so-
alternative pop.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for independent record label right now, and it just says it's a record label that operates without the funding or distribution of major record labels. So it's like, oh, that's cool. This isn't circular at all. We're not just defining independent by major, which is like, what does that mean now? This is stupid.
Yeah, you sound like you want to throw your hands up and just give out that big sigh of ugh. Throw your hands up.
It's literally like you're saying, like on the overview section, it says independent record labels are small companies that produce and distribute records. Like, well, what's small? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh, they are not affiliated with or funded by the 3 major record labels. What are these?
MGM is one, right?
It's
Guessing
Universal,
Columbia?
Universal,
Sony, and
sorry.
Warner.
Oh.
Yeah, I was okay. So Warner, that's what I was thinking of. And I know Universal and I guess Sony, but I don't really know who's even on Sony.
But that's kind of like saying too, like, so like the first like craft beer was Red Hook, right, which sold out and became super popular in Seattle. But then like calling like any of these like regional breweries craft beer, it's kind of the same thing. Like, they're still massively successful and very popular. Like, it's not like if you were to mention specific major breweries in certain regions, everyone's gonna know it. So like, how do you define that if you're only categorizing those top 3 labels as non-indie? It
Well-
feels too generic.
It's because those 3 labels own most of the other labels.
I guess that's true. But then think about this too. How many of these craft breweries, like Elysian Brewing, for example, has been sold off to Anheuser-Busch or whoever, but they're still labeled as Elysian. Like, I don't know.
Right.
It's hard for me to figure out. I miss SoundCloud.
No. It does end up being kind of a useless distinction nowadays. Like, Steve and I remember a while ago, probably this must have been at least half a decade ago. And it was probably Stereo Gum that wrote the article. I don't have it off top right now, but they were talking about Mindy labels, which was sort of the kind of thing you're talking about, where it's like they're like major but indie,
Yeah, okay. That's a good. I was looking for that. I'm looking for the one term. Looking for the catch-all. If Mindy is that, I'm gonna start using it. Starting the trend. We'll catch on. But that's a good. That's a good identifier. It's unique.
Yeah, so it was actually I'm looking it up right now. It was coined on DJ Booth. Shout out to DJ Booth. I haven't gone on there in a long time. But that's where the term got coined, and I think it was like with regard to like some rappers or something. And they're talking about industry plants in this article too. It's a good one. I'll send it to you guys.
Awesome.
I'd like to read that. Not a big fan of industry plants these days, especially with how obvious they get. Like, yeah, I would like to read what they say, but let's drag back to the album. So Velveteen. What did you think of Velveteen?
I barely remember it.
Yeah. You listen to it 10 times. It's like, ugh.
Yeah. I remember it opens. I like how it opens, and then I feel like I stopped caring probably about like 30 or like 40 seconds into it. So
This song is definitely very easy to have on, and then you forget that you're listening to it. Not that it drags on, because like, how can you say that about a song that's like, what?
2.5.
No, it's 3. It's like a little over 3, but it definitely drags on earlier than the 3. It's like, before even the 2-minute mark, probably like around 1:40 or so, and you're just like, yeah, next.
Yeah.
That's how I was feeling. That was a dud. I don't know if we said that would be a dud, but from the unique like song title, like Velveteen rolls off the lips, I probably said that it wouldn't be a dud, which I was probably wrong on that.
I said Velveteen was going to be the song of the autumn, which, all right, I'll take the L there. I was wrong.
Yeah, no.
I was wrong.
What do you think, Sam?
So I was kind of going through everything again. I don't know. Velveteen was fine, but I kind of agree with you on the or I don't know. It didn't really sound anything special. There were certain parts about it that kind of reminded me of Deer Hunter a little bit, but that was the only thing that I really thought about that specific song.
I can maybe see what you're getting at with Deer Hunter, but I'd say it's like 2 steps removed.
Very much so. Yeah, very, very loosely related. That was kind of it. Again, I haven't listened to it enough. I should have spent more time listening to it quickly.
I mean,
But-
usually with the show, we only give things like 1 or 2 listens. Like usually we'll listen to something like the day of or the day before.
Well, and I feel like obviously their last album came out in 2017, and this is a big deal to you. Just like if I don't know, like if Slowdive, their last album came out in like 2017-ish. Like if they were to release when their new LP comes out, which is supposedly being worked on, I'll probably listen to it like 10 times the first week it comes out. Like I get that.
Yeah, I remember they said that they were going to work on it. I'm like, all right, well, when you release a single, let me know.
Yeah, I know. They've been working on it apparently since February, so I'm not holding my breath at this point. But
yeah, it's going to take a bit. So tile by tile, I'm gonna drop a big take right here. This was Molly's best vocal performance, other than the very unique like Pomeranian and perhaps very online guys. That's not even like a vocal performance though. It's just mixing. Tile by tile, flashes the talent, man. That's best vocal song on the album, and it's not even close.
You said best vocal song outside of Pomeranian, right?
Yeah, I mean like the unique stuff where like you were saying that she's rapping and stuff, but I think that's more just like the standard singing for her. Like as far as tile by tile, the vocals bring it on home. Just kills it.
Yeah, like the best singing on the album. I would probably agree with that.
As far as the song, it's good. Like the whole it's good thing. It's not like the Alvvays, like as far as like the Alvvays songs that are on this album, there's like 5. After the Earthquake is 1. Pomeranian Spinster is 2. I would say that Pressed is one of them. You could say it's not very good if you want. I'd say Pharmacist is 4, and probably Boredom Bristol is 5. Like those are the like close to the core Alvvays songs. And then there's some the shoegazy stuff. Maybe Tom Verlaine is in there. Maybe Many Mirrors. But as far as like the core, yeah, like you said before, it's a lot more diversity in sound in all of the songs, which is weird.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, we can probably wrap up talking about this album now, because you're kind of leaning into some final thoughts there. I agree. There's a core of songs here that are just like genuinely great songs, and at the end of the day, I'm happy with the album. Like it was. I think it's I'm still undecided whether it's like pretty good or just great. Like there's a core of great songs here. My biggest problem with it overall is that it feels like it's maybe 2 or 3 EPs like pieced together, which would make a lot of sense given how long it's taken and how many delays they've had in recording and all the issues that came up and all that kind of stuff. It seems like maybe there were a lot of songs written at different times that just kind of got shoved into one track list where maybe would just been better to be like maybe give us an EP in like 2019, or give us an EP in like 2021, and maybe save an EP for next year. Like that would have been fine. But there's so much pressure on like the album being the defining piece of work that they just couldn't do that. It would have been perceived as some kind of letdown or some kind of delay or some kind of just negative criticism if they had done that. That's like my final thoughts.
You're committing theft right now. You're stealing my ideas. You're stealing stuff that I said. Sam, I said that about the new Duster album that I listened to.
Oh, you did?
Oh, really?
I said that about the Duster album that came out this year. I said like half of these songs are just like stuff that they would have released on the EP for the album previous, but they just didn't. They're like, what if we made a new album? And then they took half of those songs. And then they recorded a new half, and then they sent out an album instead of an EP so they can make more money on it. And that's now what I'm thinking, that Duster came back just so that they can make more money because they're broke now. And they're like, oh, we made some music like 20 years ago. So like, what if we got money for doing that? So that's why I'm saying you're committing thievery of ideas, talking points. Go to jail. I don't know.
Straight to jail.
He says after
Straight to
he
jail.
did the album.
Come and get me fed. Come and get me fed.
I'll give my very, very brief like couple things that I liked as like a wrap up. Obviously, I liked Easier on Your Own a lot. I think the lyrics were very much like sad shoegaze. Obviously I've heard it several times now. It's not just from that one listen through. I really liked After the Earthquake because I think it most closely resembles their previous album. I think it kind of captures that. It's similar to that previous sound. I don't think it's identical, but it's similar. And then I think I could be wrong here, but I think it was Belinda Says, where they had the key change that I think was really interesting, and I thought it worked well. And then I think, yeah, that's all that I can really remember about my like initial listen through.
I will say, now that you brought it up, I think that key change on Belinda Says was also one of the lowlights of the album.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it at all. I thought it was just like it wasn't as dramatic as it wanted to be.
It did kind of fall flat with that. I definitely agree. But I feel like they're such a soft-spoken band in a lot of ways, other than like, I don't know, like the most aggressive thing on the album, or one of the most aggressive, I think, is like the solo in Pomeranian Spinster. Like otherwise, I think that's pretty much it.
Overall, yeah, Pomeranian Spinster as a whole is just like the most aggressive, not even aggressive. I don't know if this band ever really gets aggressive, but it's like the most insistent, I guess I would say. And I kind of do wish they would hit on that more. Like I need more kind of energetic, like thrashing around, like, not giving a fuck Molly. That's what we need on the next album, if it ever happens, which I don't know, maybe it's a fucking 10-year wait till that.
Yeah, I thought you were just gonna say high energy. Just the high energy.
That's
high energy
better.
songs.
That's
I
better.
will say, we're going to the first show of the whole tour, so I'm curious to see how that goes as well, because obviously there's always the initial things being worked out, but especially since they haven't really toured in like 5 years, I'm a little worried that there might be a few kinks that they have to work out before they really get into a groove.
Is it really the first of the tour?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. At least.
Oh shit, it is.
I think so.
There might be. I thought that she was in the UK. I don't know if it's even showing those because it was in the past.
That might be the case.
October 2nd. Yeah, so they were in like England and Scotland the last week.
Okay.
I can't even see them. Like,
well, those shows were all just covers of the Smiths' "The Queen Is Dead" album anyway.
Fuck bozos. Yo, how upset are you that Molly is going to not only so kind of similar to what you said about tour locations. Molly is going to Salt Lake City, Boise, Idaho, Portland, Oregon, and then she's going to Eugene, Oregon. She is going to 2 Oregon cities, and you can't even get a show in Birmingham. How fucked is that?
It's, I expected at this point. It's disappointing.
Bullshit is that? She's going. You could say, she's going to a number in California. California is huge. Oregon is not. Oregon is one little array of a valley, and she's going to 2 of them.
Eugene is where that's where the University of Oregon is. So it's probably a big fan base around there anyway.
Yeah, I would argue there are probably more Alvvays fans in Oregon than there are in Alabama, unfortunately.
Oh, definitely.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's not doing any in Alabama. She's going to Asheville though. She's hitting up the small college there, which I know there's one small one, but it's it's kind of like the UW Madison or UW whatever middle of nowhere school. It's kind of like that. So yeah, I'm not sure why that she's going there.
So I guess we got to do the thing where put a number on this. You got to slap a number on it. What is it?
I am going to say, I know I did this recently where I said that I can't give a number. But I can't give a number yet. I know the range of where I'm going to give this. It's either going to be a 3.5 or a 4. I think it's a fat chance that it gets a 4.5, but it's either going to be one of those two. I can't figure it out yet. I will say I liked it on full, listening through the album. I liked it a lot more than I thought because we had the trepidations. Perhaps we were anticipating some maybe not so great songs. It's one of those two. It's a 3.5 or a 4. Not sure which yet. It's got a. I will admit that I downloaded it the day that it had gotten out, and I waited until Sunday night or this morning to listen to it. But I have listened to it probably 5-ish times. I need to let it settle. Need to let the dust settle, and it'll be one of those. But I don't know yet. But I enjoy it. One of those two.
Yeah.
What do you got,
Sam,
Chief?
I'm going to actually pass it to Sam first, just on this one listen. Initial impressions. What would you give it?
This is out of 10, right?
Out of 5.
Out of 5. See.
How do you think it's? Why would I give anything a 3.5?
That's why I was very, very surprised because I forgot you guys have used Rate Your Music for forever and are on the 5 scale. At least isn't it 5 out of that?
Yeah, it's a garbage scale. You know why? Actually, it's a really fucking terrible scale. Is because there's no 0 option. So it's goes up by 0.5 from 0 to 10, but there's no 0 option. So technically, it's like a 9.5 scale, which is just why?
Yeah.
Why?
Okay. So I guess on that then, I think I would give it. It's kind of middle of the pack, a little above middle of the pack for me. I'd say it's a 3.7. I don't know because I would rate it.
You can't do a 3.7.
I can't do a 3.7.
You gotta do a 3.5 or a 4.
Fuck me.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
I'll give it a 3.5 only because I feel like it's great, but on the initial listen, I just feel like there was nothing to me yet that is sticking out as oh my god, this is the greatest. But it's also not mediocre. I feel like if at a 3.5, it's still good. It's not mediocre for me. It'd be a 2 or 2.5.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Just on the basis that you listen to it once. I probably would give it a 3.5 if I listened to it just once. I would be fully set on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think just after one listen, that's probably about where I would have been. And I think I said in the in like one of the like the last time we talked about this album, I was like, it could be a 4 if it turned out that like, oh, they were just saving all the good shit, and I think they were just saving all the good shit, and I don't know why, but I already put a number on it. I got it as a 4 right now. Could bump down to a 3.5, but it's definitely not going to bump up. So we're all kind of in agreement as to the quality of this here.
It's around there. It's definitely around there. I'm looking forward to seeing it live. Think a lot of the songs I know I'm gonna love live, and there's probably gonna be a few that I enjoy a lot more live than I do on the recorded. I don't think that I'm going to like Fairy Online Guy live. They might not even do it because you probably have to bring, specific equipment for it. Like I'm not sure like some of those 808 sounds, I'm not even sure if they would bring one up. I mean, maybe they'll just do full guitar, but performing that one will be very different than performing like most of the other songs,
Honestly, I imagine it's all just like guitar pedals and synth filters. Like that's it.
Yeah, probably, maybe. If they do perform it, then I'll be interested to see how. I will be taking note of that.
Yeah. Can I also say, just as like one little extra thought I forgot to bring up, they still haven't really figured out how to close an album. Like it's been a problem 3 times now.
Yeah, they just kind of throw in one. Yeah, was it Red Planet? I know I'm bringing it up again, but Red Planet was the closer. When I first listened to it in probably like, the first 6 months to a year, I'm like, that song sucks, man. That's a terrible way to end it because it was so much different than all the other ones. And I off the top of my head, I can't remember how they closed Anti-Socialites. So that's a problem too. If I can't even remember it, then yeah, State of You. And then here we go, third time, just kind of drop it. Like it's kind of like taking a full project that you worked on and feel really good about, and then just holding it out in front of you and just dropping it. That's kind of closing it. I'm not saying that like it to be harsh in any way, but like you were gonna close an album, that's not how you do it.
No, I mean I get it. It's like endings are hard. I understand that, but it's kind of like you're saying. It reminds me of like some essays I wrote in school where like I get to the end and you get to the point where you have to like write the conclusion, and it's like, oh shit, I already showed you everything. Like, what more do you want? So you just
forget about life.
Yeah, you just try and put something in to be like, all right, here's like 4 sentences. That's it.
They should have just closed Anti-Socialites with Saved by a Wave. That would have been way better.
Legendary.
Yeah, that would have been way, way better. And then forget about life. Oh, yeah, no. I don't know why they choose to do it like they do, but I would choose differently. I think that's a good point that you bring up. So, think we're all in a conclusion. So now the next thing that I wanted to bring up, Marcus, what are your thoughts? Through years thinking about it, seeing it online, wondering when it's going to happen. Your first Goza. First Goza. And I mean, you have to find either. I don't know if go to Giordano's or the other one, Lou Malnati's. But I think the only way to do it is by making sure that wherever the place is the deepest ass, like, just throw a block of cheese on top of the pizza place. It has to be disgusting, like just disgustingly fat and greasy. And yeah, I think that's the way to do it. Can't do any of the small, like, flat. They have like it's not like New York style, but it's like a flat,
like a Detroit style.
Stone, yeah, I mean, kinda. You have to get something disgusting. You have to get like a really just massive thing. That's what I think you got to do.
So what is the like what's the etiquette for Goza? How are there things you're not supposed to do while you're eating it? Like, do you have to like hold your fork a certain way or something like that? Like, I don't want to embarrass myself.
Fork?
Yeah, you're using a fork?
Do you? I don't know. I've seen it's.
I mean, if
goddamn.
if you do it have a disaster, then I guess. But I mean, come on, you're a grown ass man. Let's go.
Manners are not required in this kind of meal. I hope that's very clear.
Okay.
It's disgusting. Yeah, you have to just get in. You have to just get in there. You have to just get in there. I will say I'm also very upset because normally whenever I go to Chicago, make a like lately in the past like few years, ever since that one plant was legalized, would normally get some of that, but now I'm like, kind of want to like get a job in a few months. Probably not
Yeah.
a smart idea. I've been doing that since like June too, so it's like, yeah, this is awesome. Really love this whole sobriety thing. It's really great. Like holding out, like, oh, I'm gonna make it, but now I actually just talked to my professor today, and I've got a date, got a general date, thesis defense. It's gonna be between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Oh hell yeah, no way.
You boys getting out of here. Yeah, so I'm gonna be incredibly short, Sam. But basically, the summary of my grad experiences: I got here in January 2019. I drove here in a blizzard. That was not a good sign. So I worked on one project, which honestly, so a thesis is like a demonstration of understanding of a concept or knowledge.
Well, I know that
And
I'm not that dense, I promise.
And a PhD
I
is a PhD is like creation of new knowledge. I'll be kind of dead honest. I think so I have two advisors. I've been saying my advisor this whole time. I have one advisor that's a lab advisor, and that's kind of like who I work with on a basis, like day to day. And then I have like the administrative advisor. And I honestly think that he gave me a project that a PhD should have started with, because I feel that it's arguable that it's more of a creation of new knowledge, because the thing that I was working on had not ever been done. Like it's there are concepts around it that prove that it can work, but it's never actually been done.
Really?
So I was working on that for all of 2019. Well, honestly, the first year of your master, you mostly do classes. So I was like doing, classes. So I was working on it all of 2019. And then, 2020, I was like, oh, great. So the labs were closed for like 4 to 5 months. And then they reopened. They reopened really poorly. Like, all the stuff that you had to do. You had to go through a number of trainings and get back in. And even then it was like really restrictive. And eventually, like, just dropped the project. I started working on a different project like after 2 years and maybe like a few more months. And
Yeah.
then I've been doing this new project since April of 2021. And this one is far closer to like what a master's should be. And it's just like I should have been doing this, but it kind of didn't really get on the grad program, like our groups like a radar until 2020 or 2021, when some papers were published in China, and then we're like, oh, we got to do that. So like there's like stages that like China will release papers and they'll only be available in Chinese, and then after like a certain amount of time they'll get like a certain amount of time, I mean like maybe a few months, they get released onto an English journal, usually it's a pretty big journal. I use a couple ones, and then eventually, like once it was published in English, we were like, oh shit, yeah, we got to do that. Like this was, proposals, by the Department of Energy were getting thrown around, and like, we eventually got on it, and we're like, okay, so that's basically what I've been doing now, and now I'm finally getting out, trying to work for I don't know what sort of company I want to work for, but I definitely know that I want to change. Like I wouldn't even be opposed to moving back up north, which is like totally what my mom doesn't want me to do. Like she is totally like on the like side of like you need to be where there's sunlight the most,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll get outside like a lot and all this stuff. Like kind of do now, but the place that I live now is very, very close weather-wise to Seattle. It's very gloomy a lot, and
Huh.
it rains a lot because it's like very mountainous and kind of in the southern part of the Appalachians.
Okay.
And that I'm kind of over it. Like I'm kind of just looking to change, like just move to somewhere new. Problem is, I really like hiking a lot around here. I think like West Virginia is very, very, very pretty. Um, Western half of Virginia is very pretty, and I have wanted to get to Tennessee and North Carolina a lot, and I like those places a lot. And I wouldn't mind moving to like somewhere North Carolina because I really it's like kind of a similar-ish area, and a bunch of tech jobs are moving there now because it's just really cheap to live there. And I don't know, like I just want something different. I actually looked at a place in Denver, which is called Sierra Space, and I kind of visited it, and it seems very like similar to the West Coast living that you made, like probably are aware of. It's like super dry. The grasslands are all like really yellowish and stuff.
Sure.
Doesn't rain ever, and it's like, yeah, I'm not super on board with that. Kind of, and then there's the whole, Denver, police versus the crime stuff. And I'm like, yeah, Chicago's already got that. I don't know if I want any more of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the state of my life. What I'm looking to do. Job season.
My advice would be to definitely stay somewhere where you can be adventurous, because like I grew up hiking and I love hiking, and every time I go home I try to plan one day where I do like a whole day hike. And out here in Milwaukee, it's
Yeah.
pretty difficult to find anything. I mean, there's some places you can go, and it's decent, but it's not even close to comparable. I mean, the hikes I go on
No.
here and in the general area within, even on the Ice Age Trail, I mean, are like, it's like going to a local neighborhood park back home. I'm not even kidding. It's
No,
like,
I understand.
so it's like it's interesting. If you want to do anything fun, you got to drive like 5 or 6 hours north to the border, which kind of sticks. So I would definitely advise sticking somewhere where you can still do a lot of that. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or outrageous. I mean, you don't have to be somewhere close where you can hike a mountain or anything, but I would definitely stay close to that.
I was telling Marcus last week, there's a company, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but there's a company that I was looking at, and it is Bill Gates' sustainable energy renewable thing that he has spent like $750 million on. It's called TerraPower. TerraPower has 2 locations. One is in Everett, Washington, like North Seattle.
Yeah.
The second one is in Bellevue.
Bellevue?
Yeah, it's fucking Bellevue. Northeast Bellevue, that's where it is. And I'm just like, dog, I'll probably die living in Seattle. Like I can't do the same weather, but like even drearier. And then there's the traffic, and then there's the affordability. Like, dog, I'll pass. Thanks, Bill Gates.
It is unbelievably unaffordable out there. It's
And then the problem is too, I've been to Mount Rainier. This place is beautiful, man. I would love to go back there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say like it's a park in your neighborhood, like yeah, Mount Rainier like smokes the shit out of anywhere in Wisconsin, like on the south end. So
yeah, when I was home in September, I did a hike. It's called Tolmy Peak, and it essentially takes you up this huge ridge line that literally just looks at Mount Rainier. I mean, you could not be any closer to Mount Rainier. And I'll show you guys photos. I'll send you some photos. But one of the things where like the hike is not very difficult, and it's not difficult to get to either. I mean, you could do that in a day easily. I think it took us 2.5 to 3.5 hours to do the whole hike up and down, and then driving was like 2 to 3 hours, but like very reasonable. Whereas out here, like anything even close to that, it's just not possible.
you have to drive a long way.
Yeah.
That's it too. Like I've lived out. I mean, living out here for 4 years now. I've like done all of the big-ish, medium-ish hikes within like a 2-hour radius. So it's like when my mom came out here a few weeks ago, drove 2 and like a half hours north into West Virginia, which very cool area. And but that's the state of it now. I have to drive like all ton. You have to drive to do anything. So kind of blows.
Yeah,
Kind of like whatever, man. What do you
Marcus.
think, Marcus? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very online guy, so I spend a good chunk of time inside anyway. I mean, having parks and places to hike and stuff is nice, but like I feel like the biggest thing for me is just like the size of the city. Like that's one of my least favorite things about Birmingham is just it feels like there's not enough here. So I don't really care where I live. I just want to move somewhere that has more people. Like I tried to get a job in Atlanta for a while, but it just didn't work out. And now I'm kind of at least stuck where I'm at for another 8 or so months because I want to try and stay there for a year. But after that, I don't know. I kind of want to move somewhere like just like Connecticut or something like that. Just somewhere up in the Northeast. Just see something different.
Yeah, I was there was one company that I was looking at that was in Worcestershire, I don't know, Massachusetts, which is west of Boston. But something like that, I would kind of like what I was referring to. Like I just kind of want something different. Just try to change something up. I need to get like refreshed or something. I don't know. Like even in a place that's like super cold, like I just need something a little bit different. Just to change the life up a little, throw a curveball in there. That's where I'm at mentally. I think that's kind of where you're at too.
Yeah, like when I talk about my dad, when I talk about this kind of stuff with my dad, it's like he always hammers home like you're young, you're not married, you don't have any kids, like this is basically and like you have a job, like this is like the only point in your life where you can kind of just easily pack up and move somewhere if that's what you want to do. So I'm trying to like take advantage of that before it's too late.
Yeah, before you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was in your position, I mean, with my job, moving around is easier to get promotions, but it's also hard because I can't tell you how many of my coworkers are married or they own houses here, and then they're like, well, shit, if I want a promotion, I either have to just be like unbelievably skilled and like ridiculously good at my job to a point where I'm clearly the top tier candidate if our local area gets an opening, or I have to move, and like most people can't do the moving option. So even though I'm not single, I'm still fairly nomadic, so I could easily move to like Minnesota or Illinois for work and I wouldn't have any problem with that, but still it's hard. So I think you're in a good spot. I'm a little jealous honestly of how easily you can kind of both move and do that.
You would not be jealous of me if you saw my bank account. Dog. No. Stop. It ain't doing so good over here. Like we've been treading water. Like I got my $500 tax return from the state last week, and I was feeling way better about that than anyone feasibly should. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. You don't make anything. I mean, get gold stars, I guess, but gold stars don't pay the rent, by the way, which is going up. Some poor bastard is gonna rent this place after me after rents are already starting to come down like nationwide. Like they finally, so my stupid ass apartment place, I mean like my old owners, which I loved them, they sold the place in June, like June 1st is when it got flipped over. So I was doing a month to month, and like I had a handshake agreement with them that like, okay, yeah, whenever I'm like moving out, I'll just give you like a month's notice and stuff. I'm like, this works way better in my favor than it should. And rent for what I pay is like, just fine now. It's also a little bit bigger than what I need, but it's still way more affordable than any place that's closer to campus, because housing in this place is a very big problem, because it's mountainous and you can't just easily build around here. So then the new person bought it, and they're like saying, yeah, that month to month thing, it ain't working anymore. we're swapping. So now I like had to say like, oh, I have to renew through June, which I'm not gonna stay here, but you know, I got rent increased by like $90, and then they said in the note that the next like renewal, it will significantly increase to meet market rate.
Ah, you're
So,
fucked.
so the next person's fucked. I am not fucked because I'm not staying here.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, the next like June 23, like they're probably like advertising it to people at like way, way like I'm not saying that this place is like a dump or anything. It's so like not even like the thing is that all the really cheap stuff around here is like rapidly increasing in price to where like the nicer places are now not so like much more than the places that are not nice at all. So it's just a really weird dynamic that's going on here. And
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to getting out.
it's kind of a weird thing where I'm at right now. Like, I've been living in this apartment, so basically since so like when I got to Birmingham, I lived with my sister for like 3 or 4 months, and then I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. So I moved to this place, and it's like kind of a little budget place, which is fine in Birmingham. Like rent's pretty cheap here, so it's all right. It's just like the fucking maintenance is terrible. Like I don't even want to talk about some of the things that I could complain about because I just don't want to be that guy. But it's because like when I moved in here, one company owned this like building, and within like probably the second year, a different company bought it, and everything kind of started to go downhill there. But the problem is, like, I do really like my neighborhood. Like, as long as I'm living in Birmingham, I love to keep living here. But this one company owns like all the apartments in this area in like this kind of price range. So it's like, even if I move out of here, I'm still just going to be dealing with them. Give a big anti shout out to H2. You can look them up on the Birmingham subreddit, and just everybody has bad things to say about them.
There's
Oh,
like two or three. There has to be no more than 3 people that own all of the off-campus housing, and I think I had previously like been in a, let's say, quote unquote independent, like not any of them, but then I know at least one of the 2 or 3 bought my place, and that's like the whole difference. I hate the mega landlords, man. I want to just punch them in their stupid faces.
well, see, I lived in a when I was first here, I lived in an apartment. Like when I first moved into like a full lease, I subleased initially, kind of like what you did, Marcus. Like I was somewhere else for a few months and then moved, and I was in one of those big conglomerate apartment complexes where it's owned by one of the major landlords in the state, and it was fine. And then I ended up moving with a friend because it was pricing was okay, but it was still relatively expensive. I mean, it was good for a single bedroom, but then I said to a friend, hey, why don't we move into a rental house that will save money, we'll pay less than what we do in rent, and we did that. But then with the crazy housing boom this last year, everyone and their mother was selling their house, even if they had had it for forever. And this house that I was in was fine. There wasn't nothing majorly wrong with it, but definitely like a rental house. Like if you were to live there, you would need to fix up a lot of little things here and there, like redo the basement and all this other stuff. And so then we, we, like several of my other friends who are in rental houses were told by a landlord, like, hey, we're going to sell the house. So just so you know, like when your lease is up in a couple months, like you're essentially we're giving you like 3 months to move out.
Jesus.
And so
That's not
like,
good.
This is like April. This is like April this year. And so we're like, oh shit, okay. And so I'm in a huge pinch, right? To then figure out where to move. Cause I'm like, what the hell am I gonna do? Like trying to figure out my roommate wanted to live in a totally different part of Milwaukee that I did. And I'm like, screw it. So I moved in with another friend, but now I live close to work. But same kind of thing. Now I'm just back in a large conglomerate apartment complex. And it's just like no matter how hard you try, you cannot escape the grip of
No,
capitalism.
that's why, Steven, I was actually kind of surprised to hear that you're just like renting from a person right now. Like,
Yeah, it was that
yeah.
the lady that I worked with, she was or not that I worked with, that was my quote unquote landlord. Maybe she was just a manager too, but I mean, it was she was the only person I ever saw. Like she was at least the manager for the place, and I'm sure if there were anyone over her, it was like one person. I never got the vibe that it was like a, like a big company. But now it is a company. Now there's, people that come every now and then, and they're always, I think they're looking to do like renovations. They might renovate the place when I leave, in the in between areas.
Yeah.
But yeah, anti shout out to them. Not fans so far. You have stupid, ugly-looking vans that come here every now and then, and they moved the place of where the dumpsters were. So now the dumpsters are like way closer to like the woods area, and now there's bees all over the dumpster, bro. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like a bunch of bees hanging around the dumpster.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Do
gonna.
you have any more topics that you wanted to go on? Typically,
Yeah.
Sam, what we do like on a week to week thing is like we bring like topics. We bring an album that we listen to. Obviously, this week it was the same album. We usually like bring in like a couple things, either like headline, like stuff we do over the week, or headlines we read, shows watched, or like any like weekly happening stuff. Bring in like a list of topics.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
so-
a music question then?
Yeah. What?
No.
Oh.
Can you?
Okay.
That was a harsh no.
No.
That's
not
very
that.
stern no.
I want to ask because we haven't like actually, at least I haven't with you two, sat down and talked to you about music in a while, and I'm curious what other artist who's released like music or an album of some kind or something in the last 2 years you guys have both really enjoyed that may not get a lot of views or a lot of listens.
I would say something that I've listened to that released over the last couple of years. I will say that 2021 was a pretty rough, like I didn't listen to a whole lot of music over that point. But one thing that I have listened to this year that I really enjoyed was it was called a band called Nouns. They're like a Midwest emo lo-fi alt rock band, and they put out an album this year that I thought was pretty enjoyable. I listened to them like in 2012, 2013, and was a big fan of it. And they put out another album this year that I enjoyed. There's also it's actually a guy who's a South Korean guy called Parannoul, Parannoul. He put out a 2020 album that was pretty good. Yeah, it's 1 year after your range, but I don't care.
No, that's fine.
But he's kind of like a, I'll say it, big in the underground, which makes no sense. It's kind of like the
Boo.
Mindy label, but he's one of the bigger underground guys that came out, and he was putting out I think he was actually also sampled on the Nouns album, like he did a song with them, and I thought it was pretty good. But aside from that, like those two, like, there's Duster that put out 2 albums in the last 3 years or 4 years, but yeah, then outside of that, it's not a whole lot. Like,
I'm kind of in a similar spot where, for the most part, like between 2020 and 2021, I just was not looking for new stuff. It was kind of just a whole thing of like, bro, isn't there enough music? Like, don't like. I could definitely say there's a rotation of somewhere around like 50 to 100 albums where I could just put those on for the rest of my life and I would never be unhappy with it. Like there's enough to keep me satisfied just based on what I already know. And 2020 and 2021, I was just like not looking for a lot of new stuff. Like I couldn't even name anything from either of those 2 years.
also, nothing was coming out, so like, yeah, good
Right.
luck.
It's a good time to take a break from new music. But as far as this year goes, there's a couple of albums that I've talked about on the show that I really liked. The first one is by this Australian punk band called The Chats. They put out
They
an
were
album
good
called
too.
Get Fucked earlier this year that I thought was pretty good. Have you heard of them, Sam?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One of my really good friends is Australian. He went to school with me, grade school with me, but he's Australian. He lives in Australia, and he turned us on to them like a couple years ago. Oh, I love their stuff though.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I hadn't heard about them before this year. So I was actually the last one out of the 3 of us to get into them. But yeah, they're definitely really enjoyable. the other one was this big band jazz group called Angles 9, or their name is just Angles, I guess, but depending on how many people are performing on that album, they'll kind of like change the name up a little. But it was called A Muted Reality. It came out earlier this year. To this point, it's still my album of the year. It's just kind of this wacky European, structured, not like, there's moments where they get into some free jazz kind of stuff, but not even as much as their earlier stuff. Like, this has a lot more structure than what they've done before. And it's just like 38 minutes, like 3 songs. It's really good.
Okay. So I think the one band that I have started listening to, it's kind of started end of last year, because their first album came out in like May or midsummer of 2020, and then their second album came out like very end of last year, it was like November 21. That's when I first heard about them. Is Nation of Language, and they're like based out of, I think, Brooklyn area, and they're like synth pop kind of, like indie pop type stuff. I know we're getting back into the obnoxious indie phrasing, but
Wait, what was the band name again?
Nation of Language.
Okay.
Are they related to the Nation of Islam?
No, they are not, unfortunately. It would make them a lot more controversial.
Unfortunately.
But they, they're both their 2 albums that came out I really liked. Their first one, Introduction Presence, came out in 2020. Really enjoyed like a couple of the notable songs. September Again, really liked. I think Sacred Tongue as well. But then their sophomore album, really enjoyed it, called A Way Forward. A lot of the stuff on that album, especially A Word and a Wave, their second to last track, is my favorite on that whole album, I think. So I think you guys might like it. It's kind of like layered, kind of. Some of it's a little repetitive in the beats and the drones and the keys, but I like it like that kind of repetitive droning, almost like, you both know Animal Collective has that like very, like, almost obnoxious path of how their music plays, where it's like this kind of just layering builds up, and then it's just like almost like a garbage repetition, but it sounds good. I love that. That scratches an itch in my brain, and Elise fucking hates it. So anytime I put that stuff on, it has to be by myself. She's like, I'm gonna fucking strangle you if you play that shit again. Like, it's just too much. So that's been my thing. And then I'm a big fan of Angel Olsen. You guys probably both know who she is.
Yeah.
She had a new album that came out in 2022 that I really enjoyed so far. I'm just a big fan of her. It's one of my more normie music that I listen to.
I am a big fan of her body of work.
Yes.
Big fan.
Yeah, no, I haven't listened to too much of her stuff, but that first EP, Strange Cacti, that song Drunken with Dreams, I still get chills on that one, man. That's a great song.
Yeah, and I still think her best album is My Woman from like in 2016, but her new stuff's still pretty good. It still does it for me.
I have not listened to her a lot in recent years. Like, I'm surprised that she has as many like albums released, because I just kind of in the same vein of what you guys said about Father John Misty. Like, he was big for like 2 years max, and now is still making music? ? It's kind of how I feel about this, about Angel Olsen.
Yeah, like I said, like, to her, I think her best album's still My Woman. All Mirrors I enjoyed a lot, and then I think Big Time, her new album, was still good, but it's kind of the same pathway where fewer of the songs on the album are things that I enjoy. I think it, like, obviously one of those things where like you can listen to Antisocial Lights all the way through. The new album, still kind of trying to figure out how it aligns, but same with Father John Misty. Like, first couple albums, really enjoyable. Like, they're fun. They're nothing special, but they're fun. But then you get to later stuff, and it's like, why are you still making music? Like, you should probably just call it at this point. You're gonna ruin your legacy if you keep putting stuff out.
Got to get into a band or new project. Got to change it up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I'll check out a Nation of Language. I may check out Angel Olsen, but is Nation of Language? What's the vocals primarily? Are they
So
male or female?
male. I don't think they have any female. I'm pretty sure it's an all male band. I might be wrong on that. Male, but he's kind of, I don't know how to describe his vocals. I'll have to think of it kind of
Oh yeah, it is. Well, they're all male names. Yeah, formed in Brooklyn.
formed in Brooklyn. So you know it's going to be a little pretentious, but
Yeah, I mean, it looks. I'll definitely give this first album, Introduction Presence, a listen because it's only like 10 songs. So
Mhm.
what is that going to be, like 30 something minutes?
Mhm.
I like
Yeah.
the album art for that.
Yeah, it's good.
Mhm.
Like the little guy in the background.
Oh shit! I didn't even notice that.
You didn't see that?
No.
It's right there. It's like a big green block. Oh, not big.
Yeah, now
it's a
I see it.
small
Now-
green block.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right.
That's it.
I'm gonna. Oh wait, you got one more thing there?
Well, I was going to say too, I'm a big fan of the Replacements out of Minneapolis, who've been around for forever, and they do a cover of the Replacements, Androgynous. They recently did, it's like a single they released. Very,
Okay.
very different kind of sound. So don't expect, it's one of those things where it's like you don't expect it, shouldn't expect it to be like the actual song, but I don't know. Very synthy. They're like a heavily synthy band, if that gives you a better picture too.
That's actually a very good sell after listening to Blue Rev a lot. Like I'm totally down to listen to a male vocal and synthy band. Being immediately the first thing I listened to after Molly.
Mhm.
So I'll definitely give them a listen. So,
Yes.
Marcus, do you have any other topics you wanted to bring up?
Yeah. I don't know how interesting this is going to be, so I might just end up cutting this later anyway. But this is a YouTube channel I came upon after I was watching some classic Review Bra videos. Sam, are you familiar with Review Bra?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Good dude. So I found myself on some other reviews, and I'm not sure if this guy that I'm just sending you the link to, if this is like some of the saddest shit I've ever seen in my life, or like some of the most heartwarming and just like affectionate kind of things I've seen. So I sent you a link to a video by this guy, Feature Man. You might have seen his stuff before. I don't know. But
Feature Man.
he's an elderly man who is reviewing cheap frozen TV dinners.
No way.
And I don't know how
I've
to
seen
feel
him.
about this.
I've seen this guy.
Because
I've
on the one
actually
hand,
seen him. Okay.
it's like, he's just this kind of older guy alone, talking about like banquet spaghetti meal.
He's got a
And-
Hungry Man review. I love it.
he's got like the generic root beer brand I can see in this video. So he's clearly like living alone. And I've always thought to myself, when I get a little bit older and start, judging my life and seeing where I'm at, the last thing I want to be is, if you remember that scene in True Detective season 1 where Woody Harrelson's character has just kind of like, he's divorced from his wife at this point, or separated or whatever, and he's like at home alone watching like a basketball game on a small TV, eating a microwave dinner on like, a little tray or something. And it's just one of the most depressing scenes I've ever seen in anything. And I'm like, I never want to end up like that. Part of Feature Man's whole thing, like that could be this, but at the same time, like, is it kind of a heartwarming thing that this guy has like 350,000 subscribers and gets a good amount at like this 9-day-old banquet spaghetti and meatballs with secret dessert video has about 86,000 views. Like, is that good? Like, is it heartwarming that he has this community around him, or is it like, do these people just pity him? Like, is that why they're watching it? I don't know.
I don't think it's pity at all. I think that they're something like this is definitely a lot more authentic, and they just, you know, they like listening to him, and I think that it's not sad at all. The one video that I remember seeing in whatever, like when I first saw him, was the bologna and cheese cheap fast food lunch. That was the big. That's like, I think what gave him a little bit of popularity. I don't think it's sad at all. You know, this guy's not like a super. It's not like bringing any harm to himself, or he's not doing anything bad at all. Like he's, you know, he's got his videos and people like him, and you know, they may just know about him because, you know, like you said, it was the very, very old man living alone. But he's doing something, and this is kind of the outlet. He's got, you know, the coming soon Halloween song. I mean, that might be a family member who, I don't know. Looks like a younger guy, Cole Seagroves. Maybe it's someone completely different, because it's all the videos that I click on Feature Man show him in Nashville. So I mean, he lives around people at least. He's not like out in the middle of nowhere. I don't feel that bad.
No, it kind of reminds me. I don't know if you guys seen the YouTube channel where it's like the old grandma, and it's called Great Depression Cooking, where she's like creating dishes that she had as a kid when she grew up in the Great Depression, and it's kind of the same type of thing where like I don't think people are watching it like out of pity or because they feel bad. I think it's because it's very wholesome in a way.
I
Okay,
have
so
not
you
heard
guys
about
both
Great
have like,
Depression cooking.
yeah, I haven't heard of this either, but you guys both
I'll
have
send it
like
to you.
an objectively more positive expectation of human beings than I do.
Yeah, no, I think, well, here, I'll give you an antithesis. There is one person who is very, very, very fat. His name is Nikocado Avocado.
Mm-hmm.
And that viewership is completely the other way around. People watch him because they anticipate him dying.
Yeah, he's depressing. I mean, Marcus, he used to be, I don't know how many years ago, like probably
4 or 5 years ago.
Probably like 150, 160 pounds. Like he was a small, skinny guy. And how much do you think he weighs now, Steven?
There is a video of him weighing himself, and the opening of the video is saying that his old scale broke because he exceeded the 350-pound limit on the scale, so he bought a new one. And it reads out in a fucking voice, like a girl voice, and it reads out 402.0 pounds. So he weighs over 400 pounds.
That's terrifying, because it's basically like, okay, imagine me, and then imagine me growing like 2.5 times my size.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's insane.
He does those mukbang videos, Marcus. So he just eats insane amounts of food, and I think it's just caught up with him over the years, clearly.
Yeah.
Sad.
He weighs an insane amount. And that's where I am seeing the other side. I don't think that Feature Man has any reason to bring like a negative, ironic, you know, base of viewers, but this guy deserves it. This guy absolutely deserves it. And I'm not going to say anything about like the fat shaming and stuff. This guy was not always fat. This is a decision.
I just sent you a photo. It's side by side of what he used to look like and what he looks like now, and he does not. You can't tell it's the same person. He looks completely different.
I think we just ruined Marcus's night. You know, he now knows about this person. I wish I never knew he existed.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's one of those things where you got to realize, like, nobody gains 200 pounds overnight. Like, you keep seeing that scale going up, and then it's like, yeah, should I change something? Nah.
This guy's got a dietitian. This guy has a dietitian. I don't know if
He's
it's
getting
like
swindled.
No, I think it's like the dietitian is like an extreme, like will prevent him from doing anything that will kill him, like in the instantaneous, like on a day basis. But like the dietitian obviously is saying like, yeah, you should lose weight, you know, but like the guy's not gonna do it. Like he's committed to this bit of like genuinely killing himself. He'll probably get a heart attack very soon. And dietitian is just there to like make sure it doesn't happen that day. If you get, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh my God, this picture. Jesus.
Yeah,
How does this
Isn't that-
happen to
Isn't that
somebody?
insane?
I'm more upset that he's wearing a shirt with him on it multiple times.
Oh yeah, he's got a really like self-pity, or no, like it's like half self-pity and then it's like a very bipolar switch to like pity and like loving himself and thinking he's the best. Like he'll also go and dance around the beach, you know, without a shirt on, and he'll like rub his belly and all this stuff. Then he's also has like these depression bouts, you know, where he goes offline for like 3 weeks at a time or something. It's just really weird. Like he's definitely gonna die somewhat soon, and he's just very interesting. I don't watch any of these videos, by the way. I just know of him and like
Yeah,
see
I've seen
clips of him.
clips. Yeah, I've seen clips, and that's where it's like just the most depressing clip of him like sitting on the floor shirtless, just shoving food in his mouth as fast as possible. Just because I think it's all supposed to just be as sensationalized as possible to get
Absolutely.
clicks. Yeah.
How do
It's all-
people like watch that and get enjoyment out of it? Like I don't.
Yeah, I don't at all. It's like all these videos are like 25 to like 50-minute, you know, like most of them anyway. Like video, I'm like, I'm not watching all this shit. Like no way. So it's just a very weird dynamic. I'm glad that Feature Man does not have this crowd, and I mean Review Bro too. Like, I think
he
maybe. I mean, like maybe I don't like it used to be a lot bigger, but like people just get bored eventually, and you know I think he's got a pretty decently positive viewership now.
Yeah, I guess, reason I wasn't sure about Feature Man is just because I remember, I mean, you can still go on Review Bros videos and stuff, and like you're saying, it's less now, but it there's a distinction between like people who are, I guess, laughing at him and people who are laughing with him. And with Feature Man, it's harder to even like I don't think anyone's laughing at him. It's just what what is interesting? Like why are people watching it? I guess that's what I don't understand is why are people watching an elderly man eat a banquet spaghetti dinner? Like what's the purpose of that?
Just ironically quaint, I guess. But they wouldn't shit on him for it, you know. Like, why would you do that? You know. I don't know. I wouldn't watch it either. It's just, you know, the cult following.
Is it just like he's some kind of character that people are like, well, okay, I'm gonna follow this character now?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Review Bros the same way to an extent. Not even just to an extent, but like, I mean, come on. It's a little pipsqueak guy with a funny voice and a suit. Like, that's exactly what you're describing there.
Right, but with Review Bro, it's at least like, okay, I can see how this would be funny to somebody because it was funny to me at first. Before it's like, oh no, this is actually a really cool guy. But Feature Man, I don't even see how that could be like funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like a really dry humor. Like a really, really dry humor. You know, he's like an old guy making incredibly vanilla dishes. And I don't, yeah, I wouldn't watch it for more than like a few minutes.
I wonder too, people just get like a weird comfort out of it. Like people who, I don't know. I think I'm too positive, but like, why else would you spend so much time watching something if you're not like his comment sections aren't like gross or obnoxious, are they? Like people aren't saying stuff that's like making fun of him outright, are they?
Probably not. Probably get downvoted a lot,
Yeah, I would think
disliked
probably
or
not.
whatever.
Yeah, so I feel like it's hard. Like there can't be that many people who are just like ironically spending that much time. Maybe I'm just not online enough anymore, as they say. But I don't know.
I don't blame you, man. You know, most of like weekends where I go out and hike, like those are the best ones. Like, and like weekends and stuff, I try not to be because like most of the stuff is like going through MATLAB. Like most of my day to day is like always being like either doing physical stuff or like going and writing a lot on my computer or doing a lot of analysis on my computer in Excel and stuff. I'm like, I just don't want to be at my desktop. Like, just don't want to sit in the chair. Like, need to get up and do something else.
That's why you bring your phone, you get outside, you go touch some grass, and then you scroll on your phone and say, "Hey, I touched grass today. It was good." And you post that so everybody knows.
Yeah. Look at me, guys. Well, yeah, I don't know if I have any other topics. As far as like the stuff that we can do like on Friday, I don't have anything off the top of my head now, but like in a day or two, once I get some time, because I told Marcus earlier, Sam, but like I was working until like 10 minutes before I opened the Zoom call so that he could do rest of the soundboard, which just never used. So epic, good job on your part, man.
I tried to. I told you at first I tried to, but it just wasn't working. I don't know
Oh
why.
yeah. But I can think of some stuff that we could do, more than just the goes, but just a nice hangout before the concert downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what time does the show start? 7? I'm guessing like 7-ish.
Yeah, probably. Most of the shows start at 7. Need to look up the Alvvays tour. Tom Verlaine, right there in the search history. Shit. This site sucks. Come on.
Looks. Oh wait. Looks like it
Doors
is
open 18:30. So the doors
18:30.
open at 6:30. So it says lineup details, Alvvays and Slow Pulp. There's your opener.
Do you guys know Slow Pulp at all? I have no idea who they are.
I feel like I've heard about them, but I've never listened to them. It's just like a name I've seen somewhere.
I like
Maybe
the
I'm just
look
thinking
of their
Pulp.
band members. They don't look like they make bad music. We'll say that. They're going on tour with Alvvays for a bit. I think for actually all this tour. Maybe not. I don't know.
I'll listen to their stuff too. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, when I hear Slow Pulp, I'm actually probably just thinking of Pulp.
Yeah. There's too many bands of the same name.
Yeah.
We have to make new words. That's what we do. That's what we'll get AI for. Make new band names. But then it's gonna come out like shit, like Elon Musk's daughter or son name.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kyle?
No, it's like, oh wait, is it?
That's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
It's gonna
Really?
be shit like that.
Yeah.
That's what it's gonna be. Yeah, like those are gonna be your band names in the future. I'm like, maybe I'll pass. Maybe just do a bunch of Greek. You gotta throw in the Greek symbols and stuff, like different phonetic letters from alphabets and shit. That's how you make it look good. Then you make it like black metal albums or black metal band names where you can't read it, because of all the extra lines and stuff.
Oh, wait. I was actually thinking of somebody else. Oh, so Elon Musk kid, it's how do you say this?
What's
Ash A12. X Ash A12. The
Yeah,
fuck's wrong with that guy, man?
Yeah, man, that's what's gonna be the AI generated band names. Shit like that. Won't even be good AI.
God, it makes no sense to me.
Yeah. But I don't have any other topics. Looking forward to the concert though. Need a solid, like I told Marcus before, but like most of my weekends are like this like season of like fall. It's like every third weekend I'm like doing some like flying out somewhere, like doing something. I'm like, yeah, this is great. I should have done this like, during COVID. It's awesome.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it. So yeah, awesome. Do you have any other topics you wanted to touch on, Sam, or?
No, I don't think so. I guess on the topic of YouTube channels, there's one that you guys might like that I'll share with you. They haven't been around. They've been around for a while, but they don't have a lot of videos. It's called Captain Christian. I don't know if you've seen any of their stuff before. But they do a lot of video essays. They're short. They're like 5 to 10 minutes tops.
Do they explain the Bible to me?
God, no. Thank God.
Well, I'm not
They
interested then.
like they've done videos on like Toonami, on like the history of Toonami, which I really liked.
Mhm.
They've done videos on the history of like the gorillas. They've talked about like David Fincher and his movie style, a lot of that
Guillermo
stuff.
del Toro too.
Yeah. Yeah. I got into it when the Adult Swim episode came out. That's a pretty good one to start with, I think. One of his first ones where he talks about how like Adult Swim kind of started, how it almost died, and then like obviously how Family Guy and paying to air Family Guy on Adult Swim was like a big revival for it, and everything else in between. So I thought you guys might like that. That was the only thing I could think of YouTube channel wise.
Futurama's a good show, man.
Oh
Love
yeah,
Futurama. It's like
Yeah.
one of the few good like actual cartoons that I solidly enjoy. So
yeah. I think you guys will would like. I'll share their Adult Swim one. I think you guys might like it.
mhm. Awesome. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Marcus, you have any last minute topics?
No, that's all I had for the day.
Yeah. I was thinking it was a solid solid Alvvays episode. I'd like maybe like one other thing, but yeah. I think that's the big news of the day. Got a date where I'm gonna probably graduate. It's pretty fucking solid, man.
Hell yeah.
I'm big hype about that, so I'm gonna do the outro. This has been the Always edition with Sam, with Sam. Echoing. Right. Some Always gun sounds. Does always have any gun sound samples in any of their songs?
I'll find
Wish.
some and edit them in.
I was gonna say firm no on that.
It's a good reason to go through their whole discography again.
Yeah, really. Well, I saw that you recently rated some of the Always songs or the albums. Newly
I actually-
rated, I guess.
I did, like, before the new album came out, I went back and re-listened to the other two, which starting the new account. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Starting the new account, I tried to be like more critical and more serious, but it's like, no, that just doesn't work. So I actually bumped the self-titled back up to a 5, perfect 5, and Antisocialized up to a 4.5.
You've evolved. You flipped from before, and you're like, "Yep, band's first album. That was the best album." Right back to where you started. You went through the musical progression after like, no, the sophomore albums can be good, and then you're like, no, their earlier work. Yeah, that was their best stuff. To be quite honest.
Yeah, no, I actually do like Red Planet now, which is kind of funny.
Okay, well, now you really have devolved.
All right, we'll call
All
it
right.
there.
All right. Well, thanks a bunch. Appreciate it, Sam, for
Yeah.
coming on. So awesome.
Yeah,
having
Thanks for
you.
joining us, Sam.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Do you have anything you want to plug? Like you got an Instagram, you got a Twitter, you got a YouTube?
Yeah, my Rate Your Music account is Edward Lewis Severson III. If you want to go check it out, I have some good stuff on there. I haven't rated anything in like 3 years, but I should probably start using it again.
You got like a Pearl Jam forum username you want to plug or something?
No, I mean honestly, if I did have a Pearl Jam forum username, it would be that, because that's Eddie Vedder's real name.
Yeah.
So-
Probably taken. Maybe you'd be like third_1
yeah, or like 420 would be more appropriate.
XX. All right. Take care. Show's over.